Welcome to the Minorities Report podcast. I'm Antonio Alcazar.
And I'm Jason Private Joker Tech.
We're here to review another movie for you guys. That's what we do here. We review movies.
Is that John Wayne? You and me?
If you are just tuning in for the first time, go back and watch our old episodes.
Yeah, of course. Although, I mean, we've gone through quite a bit of things already. You know, a lot of 80s hits so far. This is another one, 1987's Full Metal Jacket. We decided we wanted to do something a little bit different. I don't know why we picked a war movie right off the top, but I mean, I love war films, so I was all ready for this type of thing.
Yeah, what was our flimsy concept? We didn't want to do romance movies. So
that's what it was. The opposite of romance, right? Yeah,
that's such a dumbass fucking
somehow
theme.
war was the theme.
Yeah.
So,
all right,
you know, we try to keep our shows as themed as possible. So today we're coming at you with the 1987 hit from Stanley Kubrick, Full Metal Jacket. You know, this is one of those films, man. Fucking Kubrick, bro.
I'm really surprised that this was Kubrick, to be honest.
Yeah?
Because I've seen 3. This is now my 4th Kubrick movie that I've watched. And 3 of them I thought were atrociously slow.
Yeah.
And this I did not feel like it was atrociously slow at all.
You know what? You would know this
I burned right through it.
This was a book. So that's how you should. He loves to adapt books.
Sure.
This was a book written by a guy who served I believe he served in Vietnam.
Okay.
Stanley Kubrick, a little bit behind the scenes. Stanley Kubrick was approaching his next film that he was going to do, and like always, he had a couple options. It was between this and a movie about the Holocaust. That was where he was going.
Yeah.
And he chose this instead.
So he wanted to do like a heavy movie.
Yeah, heavy movie, definitely. And I'm glad he did this one. I'm not going to reveal too much here, but you know me, I'm a fan of Kubrick. Yep. So let's get right into the film. The music kicks off, and you got this nice blues style song about the Vietnam War. I mean, what else are you going to say about it? And right from the bat, it really sets the tone because you have these guys getting shaved up, losing their individuality, becoming the first steps of becoming a soldier. Second guy, you noticed him, of course, right? Kingpin.
No, I didn't notice.
Gomer Pyle.
Oh, that's where I
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Oh my God, that's Vincent D'Onofrio.
That's absolutely
what
Vincent
a young
D'Onofrio.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Right, exactly.
Holy shit.
Exactly.
He looks so dopey, man.
Yeah,
and Vincent
man.
D'Onofrio doesn't really come off as dopey these days.
No, definitely not. Ever since like Criminal Minds, man, he's been a dude like that. So a couple things about this. This is one of the.
That's so crazy. It would have colored the movie so differently if I would have recognized that.
That's awesome. That's funny that you didn't notice him because I mean, obviously I did, but that's because I knew already. But he, they start going through the shaving process. This is one of the first things that kind of, happens when you're at an AG. I want to point this out too. I can't speak on Marine experience whatsoever. I was not a Marine. I can only speak to Army experiences and whatnot.
Military experience.
Right, and I'm sure it's pretty similar. Also, I went through infantry training, so that was even more similar to Marine training from other Army training because I don't want to get into this deeply, but the Army has different ways of training people. One version is called OSET, where you go through your basic and your AIT all together. Your AIT is your advanced individual training, so you're going to do, like, if you're a truck driver, you're an engineer, whatever, you're going to get all your training at once. So 14 weeks for us. They also have a separate set of training, which would be like if you were maybe a medic or something like that, you would go to a basic training base, what they call boot camp in the Marines. You would go through your 9 weeks of becoming a soldier, and then you would go from there to your AIT station and then learn your AIT skill, whatever that could be. Could be a 20-week course, depending on just whatever your MOS is. Okay. Yeah. So I can only speak to that portion of how it is. But this is very similar to when you get to an AG, you show up, they kind of fuck with you, then they start processing you into becoming a soldier. And one of those first things you're doing is getting your head shaved because they're trying to turn everybody that was an individual into a one, a one unit. And it's kind of demoralizing too if you're like attached to your hair or whatnot.
Yeah.
I've
been growing my hair out for like 2 years. If they shave my hair up, I'd be like,
yours is a mane, bro.
Yeah,
it's out of control.
I'd be
it's awesome.
bummed out.
Yeah, you're very Jesus-like in your facial hair and your hair right now.
Sure, yeah.
So I was so glad that I had my head shaved when I went in. Watching this reminded me how glad I was that I had, because I used to bick. I've bicked my hair for many years.
Sure.
And
what's bicked?
Bic is the type of razor.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, okay.
I bicked down my hair before the day before I shipped too.
Yeah.
So when I got down there, actually my head was more shaved than the people coming out of the hair.
Sure.
So they, the haircuts. So they looked at me and they were like, "You're good. You didn't have to." And rewatching this, how they just fucking ripped through your hair like that, I was like, fuck me, man. I'm glad I have my head shaved. So then we get into Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, man. This motherfucker is a legend, bro.
Yeah, he's so first off, a lot of this movie I realized was the source for a lot of quotes.
Absolutely.
Holy shit, is this quoted?
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Like, there's a ton of stuff
Yeah.
that I think even I say in my life
Yeah.
that came from this movie,
Yeah.
which I'm surprised. But the other thing is, this guy was like, if I'm not mistaken, I think you've told me this, was a real drill instructor before this, no?
So the behind the scenes with this guy, man, I love this motherfucker, bro. Robert Emery, he was a drill instructor. I want to make sure that's because that's what they call the Marine in the Army. They call them drill sergeants. So he was a drill instructor during Vietnam. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So he was hired by Kubrick to be an advisor on this. Okay.
Sure.
And just kind of try to advise the guys and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He wanted to try out, and Kubrick was like, "Nah, I don't think he was too nice." Basically, he was a nice guy and whatnot, because behind the scenes, Emery is a really nice dude and whatnot. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
And a lot
I
of
would not have thought that.
Sure, and a lot of drill sergeants and instructors are, but they have to flip that switch to
Yeah.
become that person while they're there, because they're trying to create soldiers, you know, right? They're trying to get something ready for war, really, when it boils down to it. Yeah. So Kubrick was worried that he was not going to be tough enough, okay? So he was like, well, why don't you come out, you'll see how I can do it in front of some guys. And so he did it in front of the dudes, and Kubrick was, at that moment, he's like, yep, he's hired. And not only was he hired, 75% of the shit he says throughout the movie, completely his own. Not written for him whatsoever. He all the insults, all the like dressing down to the privates, completely ad-libbed. He did that all on his own. Kubrick did not write a fucking single sentence of the dressing down to the privates.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so...
but that's ugly. You know what that sounds like?
What?
Practice.
He was a drill instructor.
Yeah, but like, some of that was really mean.
Okay. All right. So I'll get into this as we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Breaking them down in their all that attention in their bays. That's how you kind of did it. Some of these fucking things I want to make me laugh so hard, bro.
Yeah.
I do not look down on niggers, kikes, wops, or greasers. You are all equally worthless.
Yeah,
that whole thing. Like the first time I saw that, I was like, holy shit. I want to point out, too, that before I joined the military, I had seen this movie, okay? So, and I remember asking my recruiter if it's kind of like that. And he's like, it's kind of like that. But, like, they don't do, like, when I joined, it was in the 2000s. They didn't do, like, racial insults and stuff like that anymore, okay? They wouldn't refer to anyone as a nigger anymore and stuff like that, okay? So, first person he breaks down is Private Brown, a.k.a. Snowball. One thing you're not going to like is that we don't serve fried chicken and watermelon on a daily basis. Okay, so he breaks down Brown, and from Brown, that's when Joker goes, is that John Wayne?
Yeah.
Because John Wayne was like, a big star in movies, military.
I know John Wayne,
right?
yeah,
of course.
Sure, yeah.
So
I'm aware of John Wayne.
And then he freaks the fuck out, right? At that point.
He freaks the fuck out.
Right. Okay. In my experience, okay, this is when they're first addressing you, okay? So I want to explain like how the Army experience was. You go from an AG, which is where you get all your fucking gear, all that type of shit, right? You go from there downrange. You ride on a bus. Now, I don't know how it is anymore, so I don't want to speak to how it is anymore. They take you on a fucking bus ride that at the time is like 20 minutes, okay, right? 20, 25 minutes. You find out later on in your time there, it's like a mile from where you actually were, but they take you through all these different routes to fuck, because everything's done to confuse you, basically, and shit like that, and make you feel trapped on this island. So you start giving up yourself to like hand yourself over to this industry that's going to turn you into what they want. Okay,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
When we were at the AG, we had drill sergeants, okay, that would walk around and basically they'd talk to you and shit like that. They'd be like, hey, private, get squared away, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Like you need to get in line right over here. You still had an order of discipline, chill. Right? They were like,
but they'd be pretty chill.
Yeah. They were like, chow hall, formation or whatever. Boom, you would get in formation for chow, this and that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You,
like
you
not
did some
everyone was just yelling at you.
No, it was almost no yelling whatsoever.
Sure.
Like, it was just like, hey, you need to get here, private, you need to get squared away, this and that, blah, blah, blah. They maybe make you do some push-ups or some shit like that, and you do some PT.
Okay.
That's pretty much it, though, okay? So then you get on the bus, you go down range. I remember thinking to myself as I got on that fucking bus, bro, this is nothing, bro. Like, I was like, holy shit, is this like way easier than I expected it to be? Like,
because you had seen Full Metal Jacket,
right? And all this type of shit. And I remember you have your rucksack on, okay, and you have another bag that's carrying all your other shit, and stuff like that.
I don't know what a rucksack is.
A rucksack is like a backpack, basically. Okay,
that
right?
Big ass long backpack.
Yeah, exactly. That goes on your back, and then you have your duffel, basically, that's full of shit as well, and that's on your chest and your front, okay, right? Yeah. And we get downrange to where we're going to spend the next few weeks, and the bus stops. And the bus opens up, and a drill sergeant comes onto the bus.
Okay.
Instantly on the bus. Get the fuck off my fucking bus right now, motherfucker! Christ. Move your fucking ass! Move! Okay, bro, I was like, oh shit. Okay, all right, this is different than I expected.
Sure, yeah.
I remember like getting my shit,
or
like,
more what you expect.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, what I had come to expect, because I spent a week in the AG, basically. Okay, right?
Sure.
And so we were all filing off the bus and shit like that. Formation, and we're like getting into formation and shit like that, right? And I got into my spot in formation, and I'm sitting there, and you're supposed to stay at attention, basically, so head and eyes forward, okay, right?
Yeah.
And I remember being head and eyes forward, and what they're doing, basically, is drill sergeants are walking up and down the lines, basically fucking with people a little bit and shit like that, right? And then other sergeants that are like the assistants to these drill sergeants are calling out like numbers and shit like that, because we all have numbers. You're not even a name, you're a number, okay, right? Yeah. And so they're walking up and down the thing, right? And I'm just head and eyes forward, no problem whatsoever. And I'm like, and people around me are getting shit on like a motherfucker. And I'm just like, bro, I'm going to fucking square my shit away. I'm going to fucking do this. It ain't even going to be a problem, right? I'm at a position of attention, okay? Yeah. Somebody over here's got some shit going on. I turn my eyes to the left a little bit, okay? Like, not even move my head, just like this, like kind of like, and like probably the slightest move because I'm looking over here. Drill sergeant jumped in my fucking face right there. I thought I fucking told you, head and eyes forward, bro. What the fuck is your malfunction? Just snapping in my face. And I was just like, yes, drill sergeant. And so you go to your fucking, then you go to, your bay, whatever, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then they start to like, deal with you. You get smoked a whole bunch more. You set up your racks, all that type of shit. Okay, sure. Right. So this is kind of like blended with that. Okay, so he fucks with Private Joker, right? Punches him, all this and that. Okay, they wouldn't like straight up punch you in the 2000s. Okay. Again, I can't speak to Vietnam. I guarantee this happened during that time period. Okay, you'd get physical abuse
because this was Vietnam was in the 70s.
Yeah, 60s, 70s. Right. Yeah. I guarantee they punched people for sure. Yeah. They found interesting ways to fucking physically get on us here. Okay. Couple little things. All right. They would never straight up punch you again. Right. Okay. They would do things like, we used to have things called brass and ammo check, okay? When you go to a range, basically, and you're doing firing drills and stuff like that, at the end of that, you would basically take off all your gear and shit like that, undo your blouse and all that stuff, and then you would get all your shit out of your pockets and whatnot, right? And then you would be in formation, and then the drill sergeants would come through, and you would say, no brass, no ammo, drill sergeant, or whatever, right? Yeah. And then they would check you to make sure you're not taking any rounds back to the bays and shit like that, right? And so if you were like a cool dude that they would just be like, they would pat you down or whatever, right? Dude, they'd beat the fuck out of you during this if you were like a piece of shit, right? Really? Like they would just fucking throw you around and shit like that, right? Like, okay.
Wow.
All right. Another thing they would do, like me, I was a slow runner at the time, okay, right?
Yeah.
And you would like, what they would do to keep motherfuckers running is a drill sergeant would get right behind you, like his feet right behind your feet as you're running, basically. Yeah. And he'd be like, if you slow down, private, you step on my fucking foot, that's assaulting the drill sergeant. I would throw your ass into the ground. And they would absolutely throw motherfuckers in the ground that way, shit like that.
Yeah.
They would find interesting ways to fuck you up if you weren't, squared the fuck away. But it's like, you didn't get, like, they didn't beat the shit out of you and stuff like that, really, unless you were like you try to fight a drill sergeant, which absolutely happened, and you would get fucked up bad. Wait. There was a guy who tried to, like, be tough as shit, bro, and it was like instantly 3 drill sergeants was on his ass, and then he was on the fucking ground, okay? But,
why would you ever try to fight a drill sergeant?
Because you think you're tough and shit, man.
That's
and
ridiculous.
Even if you are tough, you might be tough, and you might be able to take a drill sergeant, but you ain't taking 3 fucking drill sergeants for sure, man. Your ass is going to be on the fucking ground.
Yeah.
And that absolutely happened with a dude, not my platoon, but in another platoon that was in my company.
Sure,
absolutely fucking happened. And that dude was on the fucking ground, okay?
Bet,
but they'll just fucking PT your ass until you're fucking exhausted, basically.
Until you're puking.
Right, exactly. And then that's kind of the way they deal with a lot of that type of bullshit, okay? So they find, like I say, they find interesting ways to abuse privates, to get them to do what you're supposed to be fucking doing. Like you pointed out, we've talked about before. Okay, yeah, then he jumps to Texas. What's your excuse? Excuse for what, sir? I'm asking the fucking question. That is absolutely in a type of interaction. Yeah. They trap the fuck out of you like that. Like, they'll ask you a question, but it's a confusing question, so you might ask for clarity, and they'll fucking jump all over you for basically asking for clarity. Yeah. And they'll put 2 drill sergeants on you sometimes, and they'll be like contradicting things, and he'll be like, are you trying to fucking say Drill Sergeant Jackson is fucking lying right now? Well, no, Drill Sergeant. Or are you trying to say fucking Drill Sergeant Ryan is lying right now? Like just getting in your face, like, and just to break you down, basically, and try to break you down to the littlest part so they can build you back up.
Just to put you at the bottom of a hierarchy.
Yes.
Which is essentially what they're doing.
Exactly that. To mold you into what they want. Only steers and queers come from Texas. Obviously, you've heard that plenty. That's everywhere. Leonard Lawrence, baby. This is our fucking Vincent D'Onofrio, Gomer Pyle. God damn, man, it cracks me up. I know, like, I was thinking to myself as I'm watching this, I'm like, fuck, Antonio is hating this shit right now. It's making me laugh hard, man. Dude cannot stop smiling, bro. But
he was like, he had mental health issues. Clearly,
I think it's clear to see he had a learning disability.
Yeah.
Exactly. But they'll take a motherfucker with a learning disability and turn him into a soldier, man.
Especially in Vietnam.
Especially in Vietnam, bro. But like,
twice,
But like, dude, I served with dumb people. Like, I had dumb motherfuckers for sure around me, and shit like that.
But like dumb or like learning disabled.
I don't know if I had any. I don't think I had anybody that was learning disabled around me, like to that point.
Yeah.
But like a fuck up like Gomer Pyle, like close to that, yeah. Sure. But like you'd probably notice that he had a fucking learning disability rather than trying
that guy. Like off the bat, the character seemed like he was written with like a clearly he was mentally unstable from the beginning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I remember. Well, we'll get to it later.
Yeah.
All right. So then from there, they basically kind of sum it up. The only other difference too is like, if this was like a shark attack, basically, all the drill sergeants would be getting in on it. But this is kind of like an addressing. So it's kind of like blending like the things and whatnot together for a movie, which is fine, Yeah. That's easily more filmable than 6 guys running through the bay, fucking, shitting on every single dude and whatnot over and over. So they're running in formation. They're at Paris Island. Yeah, now, this is a very book sort of like layout, right? Because you're getting a lot of Joker's thoughts and whatnot. He's obviously our protagonist throughout the film. You're getting his thoughts like it's a book, basically, that he's writing about. They're running in formation. They're at Paris Island. Little side note on that means they're from the East Coast, because all East Coast guys go to Paris Island. Again, not a Marine, but I know this part. Everybody that's like west of the Mississippi goes to San Diego. That's like they only have 2 training bases. Army has a bunch of training bases. Your MOS depends on where you're going to go. They're running in cadence. That's very like weird, because that wouldn't happen that early. Okay. Like, you have to earn cadence running and earn cadence stuff. So like, you just run in silence basically and shit like that while you're doing that. Sure. So
cadence, you mean when they were singing?
Yeah, that's cadence. Right. And that's done to like keep your breathing correct and keep you in step. Basically, they have to teach you how to be in step first, both marching and running. Basically, everything you do is as a unit, man. You run as a fucking unit, you march as a fucking unit, all that stuff, when you're doing it like that. Like, there's different parts of PT that are different where you're running on your own, stuff like that. But dude, okay, so this drill sergeant, pretty fucking old looking in this, but I'm gonna tell you something. I had a drill sergeant that was 41 years old, man. Okay, that's older than I am right fucking now. This dude, and he was this black dude, squared the fuck away, man. This dude was dressed to, like, everything was iron. Dude, this guy was the fucking legit,
he was taking it seriously.
And he kept up with, like, everybody. And he told us, like, towards the end that, he's not, it doesn't matter how old he is. Ain't no private gonna outdo him, and shit like that. That's how he is, right? Because you lead by, that's the whole thing. You lead by example. They're the fucking leaders and whatnot. So, more marching, more rifle drills. Dude, Gomer Pyle just can't get his shit together, bro. His cover is all fucked up. That cover, his hat is all fucked up. He doesn't know his left from his right, like, just all fucked up shit. And they're just this is just all training and stuff like that. There's a lot of different training parts. So they get to the rifleman's creed. Everybody has a different creed. We have infantryman's creed. You learn it. You fucking repeat it all the fucking time. They drill it into you. Soldier's creed, all that shit gets drilled into you. At this point, he's leaving. The guy with the metal helmet. Did you notice that guy? He's like, turn it, hit the light, sweetheart, or whatever, right? He's got the fucking metal helmet on.
Yeah.
funny backstory on that.
Yeah.
We had a guy lose his Kevlar. Okay, Kevlar is your helmet and shit. Okay, right?
Yeah.
The drill sergeant went to the fucking DFAC mess hall, the chow hall.
Yeah.
Got him a metal pot. He had to wear a metal pot on his head for a week, dude. Wow. Shining as fuck. Just fucking, because, they do all kinds of shit like that. If you lost your, like, canteens and shit like that, you had to take around these 5-gallon things of water and shit like that, man. Yeah. It teaches you quickly not to lose your shit, right? I mean, funny shit. So,
I mean, they literally had Gomer Pyle running with his pants around his ankles, and his like thumb in his mouth.
Yeah, he's because he keeps fucking up.
Yeah,
so.
but like that's like okay, you take a mentally unstable individual, and then you continue to demoralize him in like the worst ways possible.
Well, we'll get to that in a little while. Okay, so early morning rifle drilling. This is just basically when they're doing left shoulder arms, right shoulder arms, moving the rifle around, inspection arms, all those different positions of the rifle and whatnot. They're doing obstacle courses. They're doing pugil fighting. Dude, this is the point where they're in they're probably week 3, week 4 at this point. There's no fucking way Gomer Pyle would be this fucked up still at this point.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking about too when I was at this point in the movie. I was thinking, this is very... like, he is showing no signs of improvement. And
right.
How long has this been?
Yeah.
It's only because of him that I didn't realize how long it had been.
Right.
He was literally the same guy.
So I think Marine training is like 14 weeks or like 12 weeks of basic boot camp. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can figure from the day one till when they graduate is about 14 weeks or something like that. Multiple months basically of dealing with this shit. And he can't get squared the fuck away.
Yeah.
There's no fucking way at this point the motherfucker couldn't do one pull up. Like that, he laugh, dude couldn't do one fucking pull up. He can't get squared away. They're doing the road marches. They're doing all that type of shit. And now they're starting to like try to help Pyle, like his battle brothers and stuff like that. They're trying to help Pyle complete his tasks and shit like that, right? And they definitely that's something that definitely happens. They look for that for leadership from the different privates and stuff. He demotes Private Snowball and promotes Private Joker, and because he's asking about the Virgin Mary, and it just got me thinking about how in the 60s and 70s and 80s, how we were so Christianity and communism was atheism, and it was a war of.
That's why we went to Vietnam,
right,
literally to fight communism.
Yeah, man, and we made it all about we're the godly side and they're the heathens and stuff, which is kind of funny to me because I don't want to get too much into it, but that was very much a lot of the same shit that the Nazis pushed and shit, man. Well, they had on their belts, if God is with us, who can be against us, and stuff like that, and how that's been abused from the Crusades and all just all the fucking time.
I mean, you grab at somebody's ideology and you grab at what makes them who they are.
Absolutely, man. You're absolutely right. It made me laugh thinking about that because I remember watching a movie we'll have to do down the line because it's one of my favorite war movies of all time called Stalingrad, and it's all about following these German soldiers, and it's. I mean,
look at just what's happening right now.
Yeah,
our political parties currently are both parties of ideologies.
Yeah,
they grab at who you are in your core, and they tell you that's what you're fighting for.
Yeah,
and then they do whatever the fuck they want.
Right, absolutely. Because the guys at the top don't believe any of this bullshit. They're all about that money.
They're enjoying their lives too much to care about anything for real.
Yeah, exactly. And so the Virgin Mary scene is really funny to me because he's are you telling me you don't? And he's if.
He's whatever I say, you're gonna fucking
fuck me up.
Yeah.
Completely reminded me of a situation that happened to me. Yeah. Okay, my first sergeant could not pronounce my last name. Okay, so he started calling me Tigger. Okay, Tigger.
Tigger.
All right. And so from that, I became Tigger. Everybody, the motherfuckers call me Tigger all the fucking time. Okay, right. And one time, a drill sergeant was doing mail call, and he was he called my last name. Okay, I got up to go get my mail or whatever. He's like, I thought your name was Tigger. And I was like, drill sergeant, it's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
You're a smart private, motherfucker. He gave me my mail.
Yeah.
Because I'm whatever the fuck you want it to be, that's my name.
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
I don't
because to be honest, I'm not trying to get chewed out about my name.
Right.
I don't give a fuck about
it. At this point, it was week 8 or something like this at this point. I'm just yep, whatever the fuck you want me to be.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been, 342, I've been fucking whatever, man. It's cool with me. I can be that. At this point, when Joker is the platoon guide, he is assigned to take care of Pyle, and Pyle actually starts getting his shit together with the help of Joker. He starts running at the front of formation. That's such a realistic thing too, man. Like I was just thinking to myself while I was watching that, how like, cause I was slow at running. So like you would run at the front, they'd have you at the, like towards the front of formation, or you'd be what's called a road guard. It's like a position basically you would have in the platoon that like, you know, you're on base, which, so like there's not people like just driving around. like you would have road guard that would basically run to the center of the road. You'd stand there with your hand, you know, until the fucking formation ran past, and then run all the way back to over and over and over. You're running, so like you're running way more than anybody else. Sure, so if you were like slow or out of shape at all, you'd be a road guard. I was definitely a road guard multiple fucking times. It is what it is. And your stupid fucking vest and shit like that is really funny. Okay, so then Pyle is actually starting to get squared the fuck away, and then he fucks up again, and he does not lock his foot locker. So that is some realistic type shit right there too. Like, because basically you would have like a situation where they would like check different things and whatnot, go through the bay, check you. Now we had like a wall locker basically, okay, and we would have like you'd have the bunks just like that or whatever, and you have a wall locker that would be you and your battle brother basically next to each other, and you would have a lock for that fucker thing. And it better be fucking locked every time, because if it is not locked, you'll be out doing some shit or something like that, come back to the bay, and all the shit would be all over the fucking ground and whatnot. And you'd obviously not have a fucking jelly donut in your shit, but like you'd be spending some time cleaning all that, and everything is supposed to kind of go in certain spots and shit. Of course, you know, it's the military, right, man? So he has a jelly donut. Of course he fucks up with that. And this is such a realistic thing here, because basically in the beginning, they'll fuck you up like as a unit for anybody's mistakes, and then as you get further and further down the line, they would point out a person directly, and then it would basically go from, you know, platoon, squad, individual, okay, right? Because you basically, you know, if you have like 40 dudes in your bay or whatever the fuck it is, right, you'd break down into squads from that, so like 10 man and that or whatnot, and so you got broke down more and more individually, and then people, you would start to, either you would get squared the fuck away, or people would help you square the fuck away, right? Like you're going to get your shit together one way or the fucking other, because people eventually are going to get sick of getting in trouble because of the things you're supposed to be doing and whatnot. And the other thing is, like, you personally would want to get your shit together because it's your brothers getting fucked up for the thing. Like, this scene is a perfect example of, like, if you were there and you had 52 members in your bay and 51 of them are now doing push-ups because you fucked up again, you would feel like, God damn, I need to get my shit together, right? Like,
yeah, I don't want to catch that ire.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, and it's not even like the beatdown. It's just like the disappointing of your,
well, that's what I mean by the ire.
Right.
Like, obviously, once they beat the shit out of him,
well, here's
I
the thing,
wouldn't want
right?
to catch that either.
I want to point this out.
Yeah.
He fucks up there, and then they still are kind of like past it, okay? Then now you don't know this probably, but I know he's fucked up again because they're out doing exercises,
and
right?
he's just sitting.
And he's sitting there. That means he fucked up again, and they're getting smoked again doing up downs because of something he did, and that's what he has to sit there and watch them do the up down. So, and at this point, that's when, you know, they beat the fuck out of him, man. Yeah. Now, I don't think this would happen anymore. Okay, I'm certain it probably happened but there's absolutely, you would get, you know, maybe tossed from your bed or some shit like that. You know, like you wouldn't get the fucking shit beat out of you like that, but you'd get tossed out of your bed in the middle of the night or something like that. Like they would do something like that. I don't know. I never,
because they whooped his fucking ass.
Yeah, I never fucked up to that point, like where it was like that bad. I definitely fucked up and definitely did some stupid shit and whatnot. But, you know me, man. I'm a pretty charismatic dude and shit, right? Yeah. So, like, people, you know, even when I did fuck up, okay, man, get squared the fuck away or whatever, right? Yeah. And, like, you know, so Pyle starts to go down a hole at this point because even Joker kind of takes it out on him. And that was like...
He starts to get really into the shooting.
He gets into, like, everything at this point because because, like, they're talking about, like, different things throughout time. JFK being assassinated, shit like that, and he's just got a look on his face like, all right, and he doesn't fuck up anymore after this. So like, I think in the mind of the drill sergeant, he's like, I finally broke this fucking guy. He's now squared the fuck away. He's found something that he's good at because he's good at shooting. He can obviously shoot, and he gets squared the fuck away. He knows all of his fucking orders. The one thing that was weird to me is they're on the shooting ranges without like Kevlars on, helmets on, or anything like that. Yeah. That's very, very odd. Like you would absolutely have a Kevlar on. Sure. Like you didn't go, like, again, I don't know Marines, but I can't imagine it's got to be that different. Like you didn't go anywhere without your fucking Kevlars on for the most part and shit. Just because like they're training you to remember to wear your helmet all the fucking time, because it's not like a helmet is really going to like save you if you get shot in the fucking head. But you know what it is going to help you from is if you're like riding in a Jeep or some shit like that, and you fall over, you don't fucking crack your head open and die from that, right? Yeah, stuff like that. So you don't have accidental injuries because you fell over or whatever the fuck, and stuff like that. And dude, Pyle is a badass motherfucker at this point. I mean, the dude is on point. Everything he's done is squared away, and we get to graduation day, and everybody graduates. This is something I've always been kind of envious of. I'll be honest, like the Marines, like, dude, because there's less Marines too, it's like a fucking brotherhood, bro. Plenty of people served in the Army and shit like that. And like me and Ben might joke around about things in the Army, or like, even me and Robert and stuff like that. Like different people. A friend of mine, Sean, also will talk some shit about it or whatever. Yeah. But it's definitely not the same. Like the Marines have like a brotherhood that's totally different than any other branch. Like, I know, because I know Marines, and dude, they're just like there for the Marines, like, boom, like the shit all the time. And there's definitely a little bit of that with the infantry, but other than that, like, it's just not the same. It's something I just thought of while I was watching them graduate and whatnot too. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets their MOS, which is really weird. That I don't know, like, I'm guessing that must have been how it was back in the day. You got your MOS after you were done fucking graduating or whatnot. But nowadays, as you enlist, you have a contract that gives you your MOS, and more than likely you're going to have that MOS at the end. Really? Some people might join Needs of the Army or some shit like that, but it's pretty much like you're going to be, and again, I don't know how the Marines are, but like, in the Army, it's like if you went for legal administration, you're going to be legal administration, or like, combat medic, or combat engineer, or truck 88 Mike, whatever the fuck it is, okay? Mm-hmm. Final night on the fucking island, man. They are ready to rock and roll. They're getting ready. I'm guessing at this point, and they kind of skip over it. After this day, they're going to go home for a while and then go to their unit from there, because that's kind of what you did. You'd have like a little break. You got to go home or whatnot, and then you basically go to your unit from there. And this is when Pyle breaks the fuck down, man. And he is gone as shit. Fucking Firewatch. I want to point that out too, because Joker gets Firewatch. Okay, so Firewatch really was like, you would go in like on a schedule, and you would do a certain number of hours of Firewatch. Usually it was like an hour, okay?
And what is Firewatch?
Nothing. Oh. Bro, like, it's fucking, first of all, you're in a concrete building with nothing that can start fire at all, and then you still have this Firewatch duty, where like, but you're also like, these are what your general orders like kind of like pile into and stuff like that. There's like a watch commander and all this and that, and like any violations of your order, you're there, making sure everything is squared the fuck away. Basically, people are in their bunks. There's no intruders, things of that nature, and anything that's wrong, you're going to report to your commanding officer, and from there, right? So like, that's kind of like the idea of that. But what it's really kind of get you ready for is there's no way there's going to be a fire in the actual bay of a fucking thing, but it's training you for like watch duties once you're out, with your units and stuff like that, and you're deployed and all that type of shit. You know what I mean? So Joker sees Private Pyle. Private Pyle has completely lost it.
He's in the bathroom loading.
Yeah, loading rounds. 7, 6, 2. Full Metal Jacket. Yeah. 2 points for the name used in the movie. You know how I always love that. Yeah. And Gunnery Sergeant Hartman shows up. He reports. That's what you would do. You would report, like that. And I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm not approaching a dude with a loaded rifle in a very aggressive manner and berating his ass.
Yeah, I mean, he must have just thought that he was like not gonna,
Of course, that's what he would think, right? Because if he was worried that he was gonna get shot, he wouldn't have fucking pulled that shit, right? And he smokes the fuck out of Hartman. And then he's like aiming at that Joker, and Joker's very calm about it though, and shit, the exact opposite of what Hartman was just doing. Yeah. And he smokes himself, basically.
Yeah.
And that's a very distinct cut at that end of that portion of the film.
Yeah, that was a tough scene to watch for sure.
Go ahead. So what do you think of the movie so far? I kind of want to approach this a little bit differently than we have before. What do you think of the movie at this point?
So I think that this movie has had a sequel.
Okay.
I think that the sequel to this movie is called Jarhead.
Sure.
You've seen Jarhead?
Of course I've seen Jarhead.
I've seen Jarhead a lot of times. It's a movie I like.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
And this movie is that movie. Now, the other movie talks a little bit more about what it's like when nothing happens. In this movie, something happens. Right? They get into the shit a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like once they're
because Jarhead is Desert Storm.
Yeah, and in Jarhead, it's just a lot of like them wishing something would happen.
Yeah,
and just kind of like being trained for nothing.
Yeah.
But this entire intro scene where they're like in boot camp, reminded me of Jarhead.
Sure,
because that's the beginning of
very
Jarhead too.
Truncated, like very smaller part of Jarhead.
Sure, yeah, but it's again
because they only have it's only like the first 15 minutes or so that's actually basic training in that movie.
Yeah,
and then
maybe, but it starts the same way.
Yeah,
like they're shaving his head. They haze him and shit.
Yeah,
and
there is no fucking Marine. Band.
Yeah, I
fucking love that scene.
Yeah. I can't say I wasn't uncomfortable the whole time. You know, it's funny because you say you were watching this and you were laughing at some of these scenes. I didn't laugh a single time.
Of course
this
not.
Seemed horrific to me.
Yeah.
Like I was watching a nightmare.
Right.
You know, and
I think the only way you would laugh is if you've been through shit like this.
Yeah,
right. Like
the
only way you could find humor in this is the humor of I've done shit like this and I've dealt with it. Sure. So
the relatability,
of course,
you lived through it, and so you're just like, dude, that guy's getting his.
Yeah.
But when I
was overweight. I want to point this out. When I went in, I was overweight. But overweight meaning like 230 pounds or whatever, right?
Like so not obese, but you were.
I was overweight in comparison to the I just made weight by like 2 pounds or something like that. Okay, right? Yeah. Ship weight. You know, I couldn't do. This is a few years removed from like fucking high school and everything like that, and I had done nothing after high school. I played football and sports and stuff like that through my graduation, which I graduated at 17 years old. Okay, and then I pretty much did nothing until I was 21, you know, like nothing physical at least, right? Fucked around and stuff like that. But like, you know, I may be playing a one-off football game or some shit, but I never did anything like regularly physical, okay? Sure. So like there's no way I could run 2 miles in like anywhere near PT score fucking time. I could do like half the needed push-ups was the only thing I could probably do pretty well. And like sit-ups I was okay at, okay? But running I was atrocious at, bro. And like, you know my personality and shit like that. Like, I definitely was similar when I was in the Army and shit. So, I was kind of an asshole. And, like, I got fucked up for sure. I got targeted by Drill Sergeant Thurman on a regular basis and shit like that, right? Okay? Like, dude used to make fun of me and pick me out all the fucking time and stuff like that. So, like, I definitely wasn't Gomer Pyle. I was never, like, that far gone. Yeah. But I could even feel, like, some of that because I was definitely picked out regularly. I was definitely like on duty, extra duties and stuff like that other people didn't get because, you know, I wasn't squared the fuck away and I was kind of still rebellious in some ways and shit like that. And like, definitely like, I would say like I was a mix of Joker and Pyle kind of together and shit. Cause like I would, you know, talk out and stuff like that sometimes and kind of like talk shit. Didn't I never told you about my gas chamber, scenario? No. Well, maybe we'll bring that up at the end of the episode. I don't want to get into that. So there was definitely like, it was definitely a situation where like, you're right. It is nightmarish if you've never been through this.
I have never been in a situation where this is even slightly the case.
Right.
And so watching this happen and watching this guy get broken down and watching everybody kind of, you know, be like really put down in order to be built back up as something different.
Yeah.
And watching it happen in such a demoralizing way.
Yeah.
And then at the end, dude, you know, like kills the sergeant and kills himself. You know, this was not even halfway through the movie yet.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like, what, like, this is setting a mood.
I
was deeply uncomfortable. I was deeply uncomfortable at the idea that this was happening, that it happens, maybe not at this stage anymore, but we still make soldiers.
Of course.
That's still a thing we do.
Differently than this. Even different from when I was in,
But soldiers
almost 20
are still
years ago
made,
now. Oh my fucking god! Yeah, no, absolutely. Warriors are still being made.
Yeah,
absolutely,
that still happens. And so, like, I don't know. I became very contemplative watching this movie. I started really kind of putting everything into context. You know, like all of what I know about Vietnam. I even reached out to a couple of people just to be like, hey, what is Vietnam? Like, why Vietnam? You know, like, what were we doing here? And just having that perspective while I watched this happen made it a very grim experience. And so at this point where it kind of peaked, you know, where he killed himself, I was like, oh, okay, this is rough. This is rough to watch. It almost hurt.
So like,
it almost hurt watching this.
When you first like get there, the first few days too, they have like, just like you have in any job, they kind of have like an orientation, right? Yeah. And like,
they're just like, this is going to be really bad.
No, but they're like, they bring up private pile and shit like that, right? Like, and they're like, if you see somebody that's having problems, go talk to your drill sergeant and shit like that. Make them aware, because they would never. There's no way, even in my day, they would let someone like Pyle continue. Yeah. Like you would be. What would happen is they would restart you basically after he fucked up countless times, and then you would probably do it again, and then they would just discharge you at that point because you're not military material. Clearly, Gomer Pyle was not military material, so he would have been sent home. Yeah. You know. And just do something else with his fucking life at that point. So, all right, but I want to get into the next part of this movie. So we're going to Vietnam. Okay, first scene is Private Joker with a new guy that we haven't seen before. Hooker comes.
It's been some time.
Yeah, it's clearly been some time. They're in country now, long hair, everything else. Hooker comes up to him. Me so horny. Me love you long time.
I had no idea that this is what this came from.
Of course. So you've heard the song before, of course, right?
No.
Oh, you never heard Me So Horny by Two Live Crew?
No.
Oh, shit. It's like a hit from like the early 90s. Of course you haven't heard it. It was like one of the most controversial hits because it was all about fucking and shit. And they sample this because the chorus is like, oh, me so horny. Oh, me so. They they mix it. So yeah. But
I didn't know that this is what I mean because I've heard that a lot. That's a pretty horrific, bad, slurry fucking shit to say. But
me so horny.
Yeah. Because what do you mean? Why?
I don't know. What do you mean?
Well, because me so horny is like super racist to say.
Oh well, yeah, but I mean like,
and like it's a really racist.
In the context, it's not racist because it's like I understand what you're saying. Because you're for me to say me so horny is like mocking a Vietnamese person trying to say this, but like in the scenario, it's a Vietnamese person trying to speak English.
When that was happening, I was just like, okay, prostitution was probably a super real thing.
I mean, absolutely,
yeah, of course. And so like I wasn't just like, wow, Kubrick was super racist. I didn't think that. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm just saying like what like that. I didn't know that this is where this came from.
Okay, sure.
I'm saying but it seemed accurate. You know, like I didn't for a second think that there wasn't prostitutes.
Half these whores out here are serving VC officers. The other half have TV. Make sure you only fuck the ones that cough. Okay. I know, like I know, like you point out, you were not laughing in this movie. No. It made me laugh out loud. Him saying that shit. Like, just we'll get to all of this, but okay. So. We kind of jump over to the fire base at this point. Joker's boy, Raftaman, he wants to get into the shit.
What was his name?
Raftaman.
Raftaman?
That's his nickname. Everybody has nicknames.
Yeah,
in the military.
but I thought it was
my nickname always was Tigger after that. Okay, so like
I thought it was Raptor Man.
No, Rafta. Oh, okay. Yeah. So he wants to get in the shit. Like he wants to fight because he's a Marine, man. So like he's been trained to fight and kill and stuff like that. So he doesn't realize the dangers of actual war. Like, he's in the shit. Whereas Joker is much more like, dude, you don't come back after you get shot, right? Like he's very much more realistic with that. They both work for Stars and Stripes, the paper that's kind of like, spread while in Vietnam and kind of like reports on, this is kind of, like you don't have like fucking phones with internet, so you can't look at, so you read like these papers and stuff like that.
Do soldiers these days get to take their phone out into the different country? No,
I mean I don't think so. No, man. I can't speak of these days, bro. Because like definitely not. Like definitely not. Like you're not doing that type of shit. Okay, sure, so
you don't get to just chill on your phone.
No, bro. No. You're in war. You're not fucking at chilling at the house, man, playing Call of Duty, bro. And so they go back to the paper and Joker, man, that guy is always an asshole, dude. He's always like slick talking. He's slick talking to his CO.
Seems like he always feels above what's happening.
Of course, yes, absolutely that. And his CO is trying to kind of be serious and shit like that. And I'm
surprised that a person like this wouldn't get washed out.
Because he's still like he's still a soldier. Like, he's still doing his duties and shit like that. He's just got a slick mouth to him. So, like, dude, we had slick mouth motherfuckers too and shit like that. And they, you know, you'd be doing extra push-ups and shit like that, right?
If you're charismatic enough, you probably get
away with it. Yeah. And obviously, Joker's a very charismatic character in here and shit. Yeah. So, but no, because it gets him fucked up because he gets sent to the front because he wants to keep being a slick mouth motherfucker. Yeah. And, you know, Raph the Man goes with him to the front. He pays the price for that. Door gunner, man. They're flying out to the front. I was like, this is the scene where I was like, fuck, this has got to be so rough for Antonio. The funny behind the scene, this is like one of the most, okay, so here's another, like, I understand this guy's humor, and it made me laugh. Okay, because of course,
who's humor?
The door gunner.
You understood his humor. Okay.
And he's like, you know, he's just yelling and get some, you know, shooting at motherfuckers, running around and stuff like that. And he's
but
like,
it was just like peasants.
Because he said
farmers.
Anyone who runs, is VC.
Yeah.
Anyone who doesn't run is well disciplined VC, right? Yeah. And you know the fucked up part is like that's kind of a lot of motherfuckers. Like, you got to remember, they're like deep into the shit. They're like in the tail end of the Vietnam War at this point. I want to point that out because there's some,
and also deeply disturbed people.
Well, here's the thing, bro. Like, how do you think
they
you
didn't go into it deeply disturbed?
Of course,
but by this point, they are deeply disturbed people.
All this is part of the movie, man. Yeah, and like, okay, here's.
But what I'm saying is, I get that. That's how I saw them. The movie was portraying them as deeply disturbed people, and I was going, yeah, this is some deeply disturbed
Here's
shit.
The thing. He kind of like makes jokes, and he's like, I'm that damn good. Like, that's why, you know, like, he's like, I got 147 kills, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Any women or children? Yeah, of course. Yeah. And he's like, how do you shoot women or children? Easy. You just don't lead them as much, right? Like, of course I laughed, right? Like, okay, here's the thing. One of the most deadly jobs in Vietnam, by far, was a door gunner on a helicopter. Okay. So I look at it like, this dude is fucking dead. Like, this guy is he's already like, I'm going to die here. Like, it is what it is. So like I think you become grim at that point, and your jokes and your like humor and stuff like that becomes very grim at that point.
I think the idea here is that you lose your. What they're trying to do is they're trying to break away your humanity, so you become a weapon.
Well, yeah, of course.
And then no. What I'm saying is that's what they say. Yeah. But then they succeed. Mm-hmm. And then when you're a weapon, there's very little humanity left in you.
Well, I mean, like, you also learn
I say this, and there's so much trepidation to everything that I'm saying today, because I've never been a soldier.
Of course.
I've never been to war.
Of course.
I don't know this as a firsthand context, and so I don't want to in any way say a thing that is disrespectful for people who are legitimately going out there to try and do something.
I don't think anybody. I think like okay,
but watching something this grim and reacting to it as like as a metaphor or even just as a commentary to something that was going on in Vietnam and continues to in some ways. It is really powerfully disturbing to a person who's never been in a situation like that to watch that happen. Yeah. Because that was an uncomfortable situation, watching that happen. Yeah. And the idea that that's likely what was happening was deeply disturbing.
Not only do they, like, because this even was in when I was in, okay? Like, and this is much more politically correct time. Like, 2002 was a more politically correct time than the 1960s, right? Yeah. I mean, we can both agree. We absolutely use derogatory as shit terms to describe Muslims and things of that nature, okay? Mm-hmm. Because, like, just like during World War II, they used it again about Japanese and Germans and Italians, and in other because what is you're going to a war to kill somebody who most people have a hard time killing people. Like, that's not a regular thing to kill a person, right? Like, most people don't want to kill somebody. I don't care how like gun ho they are before, like when they're in basic training or I fucking can't wait to shoot some motherfucking Hajis and this and that, right? That's not how it is once you're actually like in the shit, right? Like, you're not like, unless you're a fucked up person in the first place, right? And most of the time,
have to be incredibly fucked up to want to murder.
Yes, and most of the time, the military doesn't want a person like that, okay? They don't want a person who just is there to murder, okay? That's not what they're looking for. They're not looking for psychopaths and shit like that. Like, and so most people are have to be programmed to be able to shoot another human being. Dehumanizing those people is one of the tactics, obviously, that you need to use. Because, like, I remember reading something about World War II, they didn't do it as much, okay, right? And there was a lot of problems with people killing each other. Like, why do you think, like, the SS or, like, the Russians were so efficient at, like, killing each other and shit like that? Because, like, all they did was dehumanize the other. That was the whole fucking thing, is, like, I'm superior. That person's not even worth living. So why would you think twice about killing someone? And then the Soviets, in retaliation for what the Germans did, just were willing to murder whoever the fuck they came across, right? But I also want to point out, it's not like we have a tendency in America to whitewash some of the things we've done through history. And like World War II is often looked at as like some heroic war where we did heroic things. But don't get me wrong. I don't want to like act like the liberation of Europe was not a heroic thing to do. Like, it absolutely was. But to act like America didn't commit atrocities on the way and shit like that, or like shoot people that probably didn't need to be shot and stuff like that, absolutely happened.
Like,
okay?
yeah, like,
or like prisoners that have given up.
When people refer to the horrors of war.
Yeah.
This is a part of that.
Of course.
It's not just the shooting of your enemies, but it's the horror.
Yes, the whole, absolutely. I mean, that's why PTSD is such a real thing, bro. Sure. And like, you know, we have a tendency to whitewash, you know, like Korea and so, like, who the fuck even knows about the Korean War? Like, if you're not a person who actually gives a fuck about history.
I thought it was the war in Vietnam.
Yeah,
I thought it was the same shit.
Of course, and it's a completely different war. You know, separated by quite a few years, obviously, even. So, like I mean, Korean War was almost an extension of World War II. I mean. And it was the closest we got to World War III, actually, as well. So to date. So no, I totally feel where you're coming from with this. He catches up with the infantry division. He learns about VC killing some civilians and things of that nature. And so he finds out where the village is, and he goes to the village so he can report on that in the Stars and Stripes thing. This is one of those things where, you know, if they can investigate this, this is something you want to print about, because it's kind of like reboost your like soldiers like morale and stuff like that. Like, these people are killing innocent civilians and whatnot. Yeah. Obviously, he kind of gets his ass busted by the colonel at this point, because the colonel notices that he's got a Born to Kill helmet and a peace symbol, button on his, and he's kind of like, what's going on with that or whatever. And he's like, you know, to me, it represents the duality of man and this and that. And he kind of gets into, and he kind of even tries to get a little slick with the colonel. And the colonel kind of shuts that shit down right there. He's just like, he can kind of tell he's kind of a smart ass or whatever, you know, and he kind of shuts that shit down. So to say something ridiculously racist too, that again made me laugh, just because it's like, I understand this shit. Like, inside every gook, there's an American trying to get out. That's an interesting way to like look at that the situation or the war in Vietnam, right? Sure. Like, I get what he's trying to say, but yeah.
I mean, again, you're at the very least motivating people through ideology.
Right.
Even for whatever the actual purpose of the war is, you're motivating people through ideology.
Yeah, you're trying to say that the South Vietnamese are just like us.
Yeah, for sure.
And
yeah, I mean, and whatever it is, when he's saying that, the appeal is to the ideology of the war. You know, like, you're here to liberate, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
the funny thing is, like, we kind of see that, like, as a protagonist, as Joker kind of sees through a lot of this bullshit. Like, this war is almost kind of pointless and shit. Like, you know, we did miss something earlier. I'm sorry, that I wanted to back up to. I apologize for missing this. Mm-hmm. The Tet Offensive. Do you know about that historically? No. Okay, so like there was like a kind of like a ceasefire or a truce, like around a holiday, basically. Okay, and there'd been a kind of a truce for a little while at this point, and there was rumors and stuff that the VSC and the North Vietnamese regulars were planning an offensive on this holiday. Okay. And it was kind of blown off by Americans and shit. Like, they'd never fight during this time and whatnot. And of course, what do you think happened? Mm-hmm. They fucking sprung a fight at that point. And they had been using secret trails and shit like that to like get themselves into position where they were able to attack all these spots at the same time and kind of ambush Americans and our force and South Vietnamese forces, and we deal with that for a moment because we see like that's that scene where at night where they break through the barricade and then Joker and his whole crew have to like smoke the guys coming running through, but then they kind of reveal that there's only this place had it this easy. Every other place they're like completely being overrun. So to put this in perspective, are you familiar with the Battle of the Bulge at all?
No.
Okay. That's like the Winter War that ended World War II. It was Hitler's last attempt to break through the Western lines and like overtake American and British forces. It almost worked, but it failed. In like comparison, that would be what this is, except for it actually worked, historically speaking. The Tet Offensive and what we're going to see at the rest of this movie is kind of what broke the backs of Americans and kind of got us out of the war and led to where we ultimately went to. So at this point, Joker finds out where Cowboy is, catches up with Cowboy and that whole that squad. We get to catch up with Alec Baldwin, of course. I'm sure you know him from Firefly Flame. Mm-hmm. He's Animal Mother, and the whole crew there. And there's a scene where like Animal Mother and the black guy are talking shit to each other, and he calls him a jungle bunny and this and that, blah blah blah. And like that's such a like real thing right there. Like I just like kind of like thought like. That's like a thing where when you have the brotherhood, right, and there's no racism or anything like that, and then you'll talk shit or whatever. But
when you're talking shit, use some racism,
right? Because it's not really like it's something that like only we can say. Like,
listen, man, I've had friends.
Yeah, okay, so
between friends,
right.
You say some heinous shit to each other because it's your friend.
Yep. So then they're gonna go into an offense. Cowboy Squad is going on the offense, and they're going into a city at this point with some tank support. And this is something I wanted to like point out about Vietnam. Like we got in an argument one time about this, not me and you, but in our private chat, because somebody who kind of wanted to be a know-it-all tried to talk shit. Most of the Vietnam War was actually fought in cities and things of that nature. This idea that like they had all these like skirmishes in the jungle and shit like that, complete bullshit. Like there was that, absolutely, but most of the actual real fighting was done in cities and things of that nature, because that's what you fought over. Like you don't fight over some random jungle. Like no war is fought over just random shit. It's fought over like places of importance. Points, yeah. Exactly. Strategic points that are hit and fought over. The reason why like a lot of movies like Platoon and things of that nature deal so much with the bush and stuff is because it was kind of unique, these skirmishes were kind of unique. So that's what they kind of focus on movies and stuff. But most of the fighting was actually done in cities, Saigon, places that were actually important to them. So they get ambushed at this point. The lieutenant gets killed. So then Rafterman, it kind of pans over to him. He had been like asking to get in the shit for a while. And this dude is like shaking like a motherfucker trying to take pictures. And it's like, just kind of like here's your shit, bro. You wanted this shit. Now you're in the shit. And, he's not very nervous about it, obviously. And that makes sense. They want to like they were trying to get into the city, and they start doing like some squad maneuver tactics. Pretty solid for the time, for sure. Like the cover and run.
So like Kubrick did a good job in recreating this situation.
I thought to myself, this is pretty solid and more solid than most of the movies of this time. And I thought to myself, of course it is, because it's fucking Kubrick. So there's no way he didn't study the fuck out of this to learn how Marines covered as they moved and whatnot. So firefight in the building, and of course they're very amped up. They're very much dealing with it, and then they have to deal with the two dead Marines, of course, afterwards. And they kind of get like a point of view shot of each Marine, kind of saying something about the guys that are dead. The interviewers come in and they're talking to the different Marines and whatnot, and they're kind of waffling back and forth. Some of them are like, I don't even know why we're here. These guys would rather, like some of these guys, they don't even want us to be here. Like they'd rather be alive than free or whatever, and they'd rather be under Vietnamese or North Vietnamese control. And other ones are like, I'm glad to be here or whatnot. This is where I'm supposed to be. We're fighting for freedom and whatnot. So you kind of get a little bit of a picture of like each different Marine and kind of how they feel about it. Bring in the hookers. And the next scene, a hooker comes in. Soul Brother is too big for the hooker, but he shows the dick, and they're good to go. They kind of wrap that up, and then they go right back into the shit again. They get a little bit of rest and recovery, and they're right back in the shit. Squad leader gets shot. Cowboy is now the squad leader at this point.
When the hooker came in, though, they just let her in.
Yeah.
Everybody let her in? Because I assume that was like a military controlled area.
It was. She didn't come in by herself. She came in with a South Vietnamese
with
officer.
a dude on a bike. With an officer.
Yeah, no, he was a member of the South Vietnamese military, bringing in a hooker to service the American soldiers there. And
so they let her in, like the army let her in. That's fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know.
Yeah. Right. Well, they're about to die, so go ahead and do whatever the fuck you want.
Go fuck, right. Yeah, it's interesting, that's for sure. So Cowboy's leading the unit now. So they're sent to check out. What they've been told is that the North Vietnamese forces in this area have pulled out of the zone, and they've kind of retreated to another area. So they're going in to check out this to make sure, because that's the reports. And Cowboy kind of gets lost, and they kind of like start to double back to go into an area. They're like at a city area. 8-Ball is going to go check out things. 8-Ball gets hit at this point. They're kind of arguing over what they should do, because 8-Ball has been hit a couple times.
And Cowboy pretty quickly realizes that they're trying to get baited into like this ambush kind of
situation. Yes, exactly. Cowboy knows that 8-Ball had been shot, but he wasn't killed, so he's screaming and whatnot, and he's getting shot again, but it's always non-lethal kills, trying to get sucked into here. Cowboy's calling for backup. He needs tank backup. Everybody else is kind of losing it and wants to go forward. He's trying to hold everything together. One of the doc kind of is like, fuck this, I'm going to get him or whatever. He goes to try to get 8-Ball. He gets shot as well. Again, not killed though. And now Cowboy's like, look, I don't want to leave them here. We cannot fucking go into there. We're just going to keep getting shot one by one. So we have to wait for backup. And Animal Mother's like, look, dude, they're going to fucking die before backup gets here. Cowboy's like, they're already fucking dead anyway. So what are you going to do? And then Animal Mother loses it at this point, and he just fucking runs forward, letting loose shots from his M60, gets up to the forward area. He gets to a point where they now know that it's safe to go. And so
he makes a checkpoint.
Yeah, he makes a checkpoint.
Up until here, it's fine.
Exactly that. And so Cowboy and a few other guys are going to move up. They're going to try to flush out this situation. And they now know that at least there's nobody hiding in the buildings right next to where they're at. It's got to be further than that, so they can move up part of the squad. They move up part of the squad to the next point, and Cowboy gets shot through the chest while he's trying to radio in. Cowboy dies pretty much right away. They head out for payback. They jam up some Kubrick-style music at this point. I notice it's very much like horror sort of like real atmosphere. Right, exactly. They get up into the building. They finally figure out where this chick is. Joker jumps out, completely fucks up. Yeah. Gun jams. He can't clear the gun. Drops the gun at this point. Yeah. He's trying to fumble for his fucking 45. Yeah. And Rafter Man jumps in, saves his life, shoots the fuck out of the lady. Turns out to be like a little girl, basically. Not like a little girl, but like probably like 13 to 16 years old, somewhere in that area, that had been killing all these people.
A young woman.
Right. Animal Mother wants to just fucking leave her. Let her fucking die. She can get eaten by the rats. But Joker's like, I can't do this, man. Like, I gotta. And then he puts one in her head to end her and, save her from, she's already dead. So
she's just sitting there praying. And were they hallucinating her saying,
shoot me? No, I'm pretty sure she's saying, shoot me. Yeah, just shoot me. Right. Because she's hurting and shit. And so, Joker, finishes her off. And then it kind of cuts to there. Then they're now leaving the city area singing Mickey Mouse, MICKEYMOUSE, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, and with a voiceover of Joker kind of clearing up almost like how he feels now. Like he's been through the shit. He's no longer scared to die. He's taking it serious, and he's kind of at peace at where he is at this point in the movie. Mm-hmm. And that is the end of this film. A couple things. This battle specifically was one of the turning points for the war. As I bring up, it was when America really turned on the war. At this point, they were like, "This is fucking enough. This is absolutely pointless," and they started to in real life pull out. A couple other things. The original part of Joker, Anthony Michael Hall. If you remember that name, that's Brain from.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah,
Oh, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, and he got in like a money argument or whatever. This is a few years after Breakfast Club too, so he got in.
This is 89,
87
or 87.
So yeah, and those were like earlier 80s. So they got into a money argument or whatever, just can't work it out. So they went with what is that guy's name? I can't even remember his name now, but he's been in a few other things because he was in Stranger Things and whatnot. So
was he?
Yeah, he's the scientist, the head scientist in Stranger Things.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy.
So, yep. Right. And Bruce Willis was also asked to be in this movie, and he turned it down because at the time he was doing Moonlighting, that TV show. Bad choice, but it is what it is. So let's talk about this film in its completion now. We kind of talked about the first half of it. Let's talk about your feelings now that this movie is complete.
I didn't like it, man.
Okay.
I didn't. It's not that I didn't like it as a movie. If this had never happened in real life, this would have been a great movie. Super well done, expertly shot. I cared about everybody. The thing that bothered me is that this stuff happened. And so watching people struggle with their role in one of the most horrific things that's ever happened, and watching it happen in a way where the director made sure to make it as visceral as possible made me deeply, deeply, deeply uncomfortable. He chose to add a lot of things in this movie that were supposed to be there to make a person realize the atrocities committed by both sides. And I mean, it hit its mark with me. You know, like, I feel like whatever Kubrick was trying to show me with Gomer Pyle killing himself because he couldn't handle it, with a system that broke him down, the guy that was murdering farmers, the multiple prostitution scenes where everybody was just very cool with it, the killing of the girl at the end. There were all these moments that were supposed to be like, look at how fucking terrible this shit was. And you know what I thought? Wow, that shit was terrible. You know, like, there was nothing about this movie that was a fun experience for me. Again, if I was watching something that never happened, if this shit was like this exactly, but it was set in space, I might have been able to enjoy it. But because it was just like, this was Vietnam, man. This was, this happened 60 years ago. People were doing this shit. And this is what war looks like, and it likely has happened since, and maybe happening now in different countries. It just kind of was a huge buzzkill, Like, I didn't think, wow, what an entertaining movie, Like, I was just like, this is rough, and it made me sad. And there was a couple of times where I got very emotional because I couldn't really like handle well the fact that this is like some of humanity, Like, and we spend a lot of times watching lighter stuff, horror or whatever, we're in situations where like, there's no aliens, for sure. And like, we're still in those situations analyzing the human condition.
Of course.
Like, how do people react when there's paranoia or whatever it is. But this was like, Kubrick was just like, I want to show people what war can be, And it turns out that war is one of the most horrific aspects of human nature, or of the human enterprise. And watching it was not a comfortable experience. This was a movie that I watched and was unhappy during and afterward. And it's funny, like, and I want to bring this up, what we were talking about before. A couple of days ago, we were talking about how what your experience was, and we were talking about and what you guys kind of went through during boot camp and all that. And I said I could be a soldier, like, if I'm going to sign up for it, I'm going to go and do the thing.
Yep.
I wouldn't like talk back because I'm above it. I'd be like, no, I signed up, like, this is what I'm doing. But that was what I expected. I would react to through boot camp. And watching this, I didn't think anything different. Boot camp seems like the kind of situation where they're trying to get you ready. And listen, man, you signed up, so get ready, focus up, square up, the way you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have absolutely deserted that war. Mm-hmm. There is nothing in me that thinks that I could handle a war. Yeah. And like, this is a Hollywood representation. I'm sure war is much more viscerally real. But I could barely handle a Hollywood depiction of war.
Sure.
The reality of what war must be like is so detrimental to my mental health, I think, that if I were to ever go there, I might end up like Gomer Pyle. Like, not killing anybody, but killing myself. Just because, I can't even imagine being being able to do it. Being able to do it, much less willing to or like enjoying it. I think that even just the capacity to be in a situation where I'm shooting or being shot at is not something that I could ever handle. And so watching this movie and its probably fractional depiction of what the reality must be was deeply uncomfortable. It was really, really ugly.
So this would not be a recommend to you?
I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know who you could recommend this movie to, you know? People who were in the Army and want to watch something that's relatable? I don't know. I can't think of anybody who should watch this movie to get enjoyment out of it. If you want to watch Kubrick show you maybe like some small part of what war might actually have been like during Vietnam, and you're interested in maybe, I don't know, empathizing or getting something from it, then go ahead, watch this movie. You know, this was well done. Kubrick did a great job.
I was going to ask you.
I was uncomfortable the whole time.
So where was this? Now, you've watched 4 Kubrick films?
Yes.
Where is this on your list of Kubrick films?
This is my favorite one.
Okay, so...
Yeah, this is the one that I was thoroughly engaged. Like, I sat down and I don't think I looked at my phone one time when I was watching this movie. Because I was so captivated by what this was showing me.
It's funny, I watched this recently with my girlfriend, and I was laughing through like bunch of the first part, and she was like not laughing, and she was kind of like, and I was, you just have to understand it. And this movie, this is, I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. Watching it this time, I was like, I love this film more than I could possibly imagine. It is absolutely phenomenal, and it is one of my top 20 films of all time. Like rewatching it, this might be my favorite war film, because a lot of what you brought up, actually. I want to point out things that are unique to this film, okay? It's not just unique that this is like a dirty version of a war, right? A non-Saving Private Ryan where we're on a noble quest, or even...
yeah, because Saving Private Ryan... I watched Saving Private Ryan a bunch of times. I like that movie.
Sure.
And I've watched Jarhead a bunch of times. I like that movie. But in both of those movies, you see a lot of atrocities or whatever, but it's more talking about you don't see the same as what you see in this.
You brought up Jarhead, and to me this is nothing like Jarhead. The only thing that's like Jarhead is the subject material is also Marines being in basic training.
Yes, and the subject matter is very similar, and the way it's presented is very similar, but everything it's talking about and what it's like presenting as like the point of the movie is very different.
Problem making films like I point out, Saving Private Ryan, even Black Hawk Down to a point, even We Were Soldiers, another Vietnam movie. I'm not sure if you've seen that one or not, but it's a Mel Gibson Vietnam movie, so it's very much like The Patriot or whatever the fuck else, right?
Super glorifying.
Glorification of war. My 2 favorite war films are this and Stalingrad. The exact opposite. Stalingrad is a movie about a German unit who served in Italy, fought against the British in Italy, and it was kind of like, in Africa. And Africa was kind of looked at as like a noble war, because it was the Africa Corps versus, these other, and like, of course, shitty things happen, but like, you fought nobly, and you disabled someone's tank, and you didn't kill the people that were in the tank. You disabled the tank, so they can't really fight anymore. This and that, blah, blah, blah. And then they have a rest and recovery in Italy, and then they're sent to Stalingrad. Okay. And as the lieutenant shows up, and he's decorated and everything else, and there's one guy in the unit that's kind of like, this whole war is fucking bullshit. Okay. Right. And the lieutenant shows up, and he sees like Russian prisoners getting fucked up by Germans, like getting smashed in the face by Germans and stuff like that. And he goes to he tries to stop it, and like one of the guards like throws him off or whatever, right? And then he goes to talk to, which would actually, I don't think that would happen because he was like a lieutenant. And he goes to the what would be the equivalent of a captain in the German army, and he like wants to make a complaint, a formal complaint. And the captain kind of like mocks him, and he's like, "Oh, I'll send your complaint right to Hitler or whatever. He can hear. I'm sure he would be very happy." And he kind of laughs at him or whatever, right? And then it's just like miserable. And the movie starts off though like as a very noble, like, you know, they're getting medals and stuff like that, and and it just gets worse and worse and worse, and it ends with them in the middle of winter in the snow dying of hunger basically, and that's the end of the war for them. And then it's got some music and it's very just depressing as fuck. This is depressing but more, because something unique that I have never seen a war movie do, and I forgot about these scenes until I rewatched them. The interviews with the Marines and whatnot, and it's like
they do that in Jarhead too.
I don't even remember that.
There's a full like they interview everybody.
Oh, okay.
They've been there in the shit for a little
Sure.
while, like in country.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm saying there was a lot of the same beats.
Yeah.
When I was watching this movie, I'm like, the guy who watched Jarhead loves Full Metal
course,
Jacket.
I'm sure that's and it's just like. It was important to me. There's a lot going on with this film. I thought Joker's helmet button together was a perfect metaphor for this film. The Born to Kill, the peace symbol on the same. The emotions of all this film. The Kubrick wanted to make all of us, as we watch this, feel confused, feel passive, feel powerless, incapable of fair assessment of the overall movie, because I think he's trying to give you a view of what a soldier's life basically is. The confusion of it, the you know, back and forth of it and whatnot, the peacekeeping while war making sort of thing of it, everything that goes on, and like the fact that you take these individual people and break them down and create this thing that you're trying to create, while also being, and even worse now, because now we're like, hey, go to war, fight this war, come back, be a productive member of society. We'll maybe help you with the VA a little bit or something like that. You know, we'll maybe do a few things for you. But like to deprogram these people and like not have PTSD and become a functional member of society, when some people have done fucking, you know, shit that most people don't want to do, right? Like a friend of mine has a dad that fought in Vietnam, and he's telling me stories that he gave. And if I remember correctly, he won like a Bronze Star for being in Vietnam. And I don't want to speak to his experience because obviously I'm not even his son, but like I remember some of the things he took, just how horrible it was, you know, and like how shitty everything about Vietnam was. But then like, you know, I don't think it was any different with like World War II. It's just that the motivation, the way we motivated people was different. We were able to motivate people that this was a war. Nazism was out of control, and we were sent to Europe. You know, look at Eisenhower's speeches on D-Day and whatnot. Like it was all about.
Wasn't the idea behind Vietnam and why we were there in order to
stop evil communism.
Right?
The spread of communism had gotten out of control, and we were going to help stymie that because South Vietnamese wanted to be its own place, like Korea, you know, like South Korea, North Korea, and have that, you know, legitimacy. And so we were there fighting, and it was.
But it was also because they were Russian or USSR allies, no?
Yeah. North Vietnam was.
Yeah, so
just like North Korea.
That was a strategic, like.
Of course, that's all that.
But that's what I'm saying, like in the greater context, because like you got to remember, I'm not a war guy. I've never been a war guy. I've never been to war. I've never been a soldier. I don't know or like most of this stuff.
Right.
And so I had to reach out to a friend who is a war guy. As soon as this movie was over, and I was just like, "Hey, man, can you explain to me Vietnam? Like, what was the whole context there?" Because while watching this, I realized I didn't know why that had even happened, and watching a horrific display of war made me think, okay, clearly sometimes wars are, if not necessary, definitely inevitable.
Yes.
Some of them I have a good historical context for why they've happened.
Sure.
More specifically, I've got a good historical context for World War I and World War II. I know enough about history to understand the context there.
Sure.
And I also understand the context of greater American wars like the Civil War and more recent American wars because I've lived in those times. But I realized I didn't know what the fuck the point of the Vietnamese War was. Like I suddenly, when I was watching this movie, realized, wait, why were we there in the first place? I had to reach out and get some context for this.
Absolutely.
Because I had to find some way of not justifying, but understanding why this horrific thing happened. Because there's not always going to be a good reason.
Right.
And then a lot of times when you really look into it, there's never really been good reasons.
Yeah.
Reasons that are inevitable, maybe. But
right. Well, I would say like everything from the end of World War II through like modern times has been bullshit political systems attempting to be the most powerful superpower when it boils down to it. It's not just, it's not Vietnam, it's Korea, Vietnam, the first war in Afghanistan, the Russian war in Afghanistan, the war, the fighting that happened in Grenada. Like there's so many conflicts that people don't even know about. Fighting all over Africa between Russians and Americans through mercenary units and things of that nature, CIA operatives, KGB, shit like that, all through that entire fucking continent. Okay. And like, even tying into, well, I mean, like the whole wars in the Middle East are a little bit different because that's more like a religious thing. And I don't want to like kind of want to breach into that too much because we could get into Israel and all that type of stuff. And that would be a whole nother podcast we could do. But the wars, the greater wars that were the nut measuring contest between Russia and America cost so many fucking lives. And it's always funny to me when you always see, you know, I'm trying to be as apolitical as I can on here because I am a moderate. Yeah. But you always see posts on Facebook and shit like that. How many lives did communism cost? Yeah. How many fucking lives did capitalism cost? Yeah. Because we were not okay with them taking over Korea. We were not okay with them taking over Vietnam. You know, these small wars, they're not small wars even. The small wars were the African continent wars, but these wars that were fought over just, we didn't like that country being red. We want that country to be blue because that's what we are. And we're trying to exert as much of our control as we can over the world. And I don't care what anybody says. They're an ally.
Some of that though, that's where I'm saying maybe the reasons weren't good, but the reasons are inevitable. Yeah. Because I don't necessarily think that that's a good reason to kill, you know?
What's that?
Like differing ideologies.
Of course, yeah.
But
political ideologies
especially, yeah. Well, and economic ideologies because capitalism, communism are kind of...
Yeah, of course. Yep.
But the idea that they are inevitable seems like fine. Like you have to accept that if major powers are trying to
disagree,
and are trying to become as powerful and as stable as possible, they're gonna say, hey, you know, let's fight over this.
Yeah,
you know? and I get that happens. I'm not some person who's like, we should just kind of talk it out. Like,
yeah, it's not gonna happen.
I think idealistically you talk it out, right? Yeah. But like, war is inevitable.
We've been doing that since the 80s pretty much now. Like our country has been
there's still some wars though.
Our world has done a good job of that since
of curbing the huge
wars, right? Because like the last huge war was what? Vietnam, basically. I'm trying to remember if there was anything that was that scale since then. And I mean, like, sure.
I mean, so I don't understand the difference in size specifically between Vietnam and the Gulf Wars.
Oh, the Gulf War was nothing because the Gulf War was just basically America and some allies versus Iraq, and it was a very short war. I mean, it lasted what, a couple of weeks? It was like a couple months, maybe. Like,
I don't know.
It was definitely like not a long war.
And by the Gulf Wars, I do mean like.
Oh, you mean the newer ones too?
Yeah, the newer ones.
Okay,
too.
Yeah, those were more, you know, the Bush Wars you're talking to.
Yes, and more specifically the Bush Wars or W's Wars.
Yeah,
because I was alive in W's wars.
My justification. Okay, so I have two different feelings on the two different wars. Iraq War, I'm mostly against. Afghanistan War. Okay, I want to point out, the first Iraq War, I'm completely for. Okay, it's one of the reasons I hate Bernie Sanders because he was one of the only senators to vote against that war. And that war to me was, I mean, I don't even want to say was, it literally was Iraq invading one of our allies and we responded to that invasion. Okay. And we invaded Iraq. And then we did enough to beat their asses back and then we left. Like that was the first Bush's way of doing that. We're like, we're not going to fucking invade and take over this. We're just going to beat down the fucking military power and then you can have your country, but stay the fuck out of our ally. Okay. And the reason I always have a problem with the senator is because I get what his argument was, that we're going to be in a place that's going to fight forever. But Bush specifically didn't do that. And if his idiot son didn't refire up that war, Saddam Hussein would probably still be in charge. And that's not great, but it wouldn't be the weird fucking situation that we've had over the last how many ever years. Yeah. So That's my one frustration with him, because it's like, if your ally is invaded by a foreign power, and you do not help them,
what's the point of being an ally?
why would anyone be our ally at that point, right?
The point of having allies is that you're going to get
and like the argument that they're small and they're Middle Eastern, this and that is complete bullshit to me. Because are we only going to come to the ally of powerful places?
What I was going to say is, if you're not going to go into their country to help them out, then don't ever say they're your ally.
Yeah, exactly.
Just don't make allies with them.
You're just a person. You're just another country.
Then just be like, oh, I don't care about you. You're too small or Middle Eastern, whatever it is that your justification is. So the moment you say, no, we're allies, we're in this together, then if you're getting picked on, you got to go in there and help.
The second Iraq War, that's a problematic one, man.
The second Iraq War was one that I was alive for. I remember all of it.
Yeah, and it was problematic. The Afghanistan War, I understand. Just because of the whole situation
with Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a hard one, because like Afghanistan was kind of in a rock and a hard place at that point, because it's like, well, do you give up this guy and you're, this unit, the Al Qaeda, or do you go to war with us, And it's like, if you give them up, then you're losing part of your power as the Taliban and whatnot. Sure. And like, I don't know. As I've gotten older, I realize that there are no fucking black and white wars anymore. Yeah. Like,
there aren't ever.
Right. Exactly.
And I think that's what this movie did really well, and what kind of made me uncomfortable watching it is that, one, I'm not naive enough to think that there's a black and white war. War is always...
Game of Thrones taught us that.
If for no other reason, Game of Thrones taught me that there's no black and white wars. But the idea that like every war has war criminals on both sides is a deeply horrific thing, and that's why I reached out to find out the greater context of the Vietnam War.
Right.
Because some of them you make your peace with. You go, yeah, humans are shit.
Yeah.
But this one is especially humans are shit. The Vietnam War is one where I can really go, wow, so we just went in there and killed people and got killed ourselves for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
Like that one. That one just seems a little less like it was needed.
It's a tough one, man, and it's one of those ones where, looking back in hindsight, it doesn't make a ton of sense.
You always wish that there were no wars, but that one just seems like egregious.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, that was a huge downer of an episode, everyone.
Yeah, I think you're going to find the next movie we do quite different. It's also a Vietnam movie, but it's told as an adventure rather than
which one are we doing next?
Apocalypse Now.
Oh yeah.
And that's more of an adventure than this is. But this is it's good that we're hitting these ones, because these are like the Academy Award winning type of films and whatnot.
And this one deserved it.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, I've watched 4 Kubrick movies now, and this is my favorite one, and also the one that I like the least.
Yeah.
The one that made me most uncomfortable and unhappy,
because it's the most dealing with reality. It's the most realistic situation, and it deals with things that actually really happen. So
and for like, I am in a very privileged generation, because I was born in '88,
right?
And so I was too young. When I turned 18, it was like, I don't know, you didn't really need soldiers in the Iraq War anymore. Like, people were still signing up, obviously, but it was many years after it happened. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up in like a rejection of the Vietnam War. I came of age at the end of the Bush years. And so for me, the idea of going to war has always been a ridiculous, like, why the fuck would I ever go to war, And so watching a movie set in a time period where, if you didn't go, it was because you were denying being drafted and you were going to prison for not going.
Well, not everybody was drafted either.
No, I know, but like the Vietnam War was the one that were people being drafted.
Yeah, right? Is that the last? Yeah, that's the last war that had a draft.
Yeah, and like that one, one of the big things on the counter revolution, or in the counter military side, was I am not going, and I would rather go to jail than not go.
Yeah.
And so that's a pretty like stark kind of thing, like a lot of times when boomers are just like, oh, you kids are like coddled, like you want your participation trophies, while I was like in the shit, and like, yeah, I get it. The government at the time, I think, put you in the shit. I'm not even begrudging them and going, nah, fuck you.
No.
Like, yeah, you guys went through shit that I hopefully will never go through.
Right.
That I'm thankful I'll never go through. Yeah. And I don't begrudge anybody that has that mentality. It must suck. It really must suck. Having been young and sent to war,
forced to war,
to kill or be killed for nebulous reasons.
Yeah.
And then watch kids nowadays complain about, their video
Cell
game
phones.
systems and shit. Like, that must be infuriating. Like,
Yeah.
I get it.
Totally.
But also, I'm really happy that that's what I get to complain about.
Yeah.
You cannot believe how
I'm sure
fucking grateful I am that that's what I complain about.
There's plenty of, there are plenty of, I know you're talking about one type of Vietnam vet or one type of era vet, like from that era, but like there are
I'm
plenty.
mostly just talking about like hardened old people.
I want to point out there are plenty of Vietnam vets that are like, fuck, that war was bullshit.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
like I love my brothers. I love, the people I served with, but that war was fucking bullshit, and we should have never been there in the first place. So, like,
and that's a common sentiment, even on people that were over there and stuff.
Okay.
I just mean the greater context of like hardened older people going, "Wow, you guys are complaining about bullshit."
I mean, Muhammad Ali refused to fucking fight because he's like, I'm not gonna fucking go somewhere to kill other poor people, And for a country that shits on us still. Like, I was a black dude in the '60s, man. Like, you still shit on us regularly. Why the fuck should I go to another? That Vietnamese person probably likes me more than you fucking like me and shit, So it is what it is, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the end of the episode, everybody. Hopefully next week we talk about war in a way that is not so dour.
You can join us for Apocalypse Now. It's a great hit from the late 70s. We'll be putting on our gear, basically. We're going to try to fit in there. We'll put on rucksacks while we're doing it live.
Sure, yeah. You can expect that next time when you see us or when you listen to us, you'll be watching us watch this movie as we're going through like a boot camp situation.
Live.
I'm kidding. We're never doing this live.
Well, I wanted to see exotic Vietnam, the jewel of the Southeast. I wanted to meet interesting and stimulating people of an ancient culture and kill them. I wanted to be the first kid on my block to get a confirmed kill.